the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, then I'll watch them roll away again.
Maritime Matters is brought to you live by Bahamas Maritime Connection.
What is maritime?
Maritime, simply put, relates to navigation or commerce on the high seas.
Some say money makes the world go round. I say ships move the money that make the world move.
Who navigates those large international ships?
How often are international ships required to be surveyed and inspected?
Maritime also protects our seas and borders by way of our local Bahamas Defense
It
Force.
is very sad to say that out of 1,500 plus ships that are registered under the Bahamian flag, only a very small amount of Bahamians are employed.
Maritime Matters.
And pleasant good evening to you, our valued listening audience. Welcome one, welcome all. Welcome to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. The producer for our show tonight is the great one himself, the maestro, Mr. Craig Gibson. We're coming to you live via Love 97 FM. This is Tuesday, the 3rd day of March 2026. And if it's a Tuesday, you know the deal. It's Maritime Tick, 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 Tick Matters. We encourage that if you're driving and tuning in with us, please do so cautiously and ensure to take your time in getting wherever it is you are trying to get safely. As the saying goes, drive to arrive alive. Our sponsors for tonight's show are 101 Pharmacy and also Island Care Pharmacy. For all your medication needs, check out my little cuss, Shantia Healed McBride, and a lovely team at 101 Pharmacy in Nassau and Island Care Pharmacy up there in downtown Freeport. Fill your prescription at the store or send refills via the online site 1on1pharmacy.com. That's 101 Pharmacy, all lowercase, all one word, .com. The 3 locations are East Street South, Charles Sanders Highway, and of course Explorers Way there in Freeport. We are secondly sponsored by Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. At BMC, we proudly provide a full slate of ISPS maritime security services, and we are located on E Street South. Good night, Auntie May. My good Auntie May. I'm going to call her old, and it may say I'm getting older, but I'm not old. And I'm a one fan on Maritime Matters, people. That's my good old Auntie May up there in Freeport. You know, she's 92 years, and I think it's next Monday, Auntie May. Gee, boy, if I get that one wrong. Auntie May tell me, boy, ain't long now. Auntie May's got to be 93, people. And she's still strong. 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 Tonight's discussions will focus on worldwide fallout surrounding the war in the Persian Gulf. And if you're living today, anytime you turn on the TV on any sensible channel, you will get a good earful, a good eyeful of what's going on in the Gulf. And we talk about the Persian Gulf, the greatest Gulf in the world. We get the Gulf of, well, Mr. Donald Trump, the president of the U.S., it ain't be Gulf of Mexico no more. He said it could be Gulf of America or Gulf of the United States, something like that. Anyway, we talk about the Persian Gulf, people, where all the rich, oil-rich countries, because they got most, I think they got over 60% of oil worldwide right in that little Gulf. And that's a little Gulf compared to some of the other Gulf. But you know, that Gulf has been for the second time, well, this time worse than the first, but penetrated by war. And we are going to have discussions, because you can't duck it, people. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it while it is hot. And we talk about the war in the Gulf and the worldwide impact it is having, because that's how serious this war in the Gulf carrying on right now. The Gulf states, or the states, the countries that are basically share the inside of that Gulf with all the countries like Saudi Arabia. You have, first of all, Oman is right on the opposite side of Iran. Oman and Iran. That's the Strait of Hormuz. That's where you go in. Now, you know it's one way in and one way out. This Gulf in, like you go through this end and come out through. No. One way in, everybody can go in through there, and everybody come out through there. And when you go in through that bottleneck, I would refer to it too, the entrance and the exit, you have to pass very close to both Oman and to Iran. And then as you come around that bend, you could come closer to sort of like Saudi Arabia, which is again still now Iran takes up the whole eastern section of that. Iran goes straight around till it reaches by Iraq. But you got Oman, then you got, and this just how I recall it, because I ain't looking at nothing, right? But I know you got Oman, then you got Saudi Arabia. And along that long stretch that took us, I think either Saudi Arabia or Iran, one of them is the largest in that whole belt. I think it's Saudi Arabia and then Iran. But two of them are huge. But Saudi Arabia take up a good strip, and along the strip of Saudi Arabia, you got smaller countries like Kuwait and Qatar and Bahrain, and you go further up and you're dealing with Iraq, and yeah, so everybody got their portion of that Gulf, and all, excluding none, all of those countries are super rich, very wealthy. And my question from the time the show started 3 years ago was, since the world is leaning toward renewable energy, and we would think that within 15, 20 years from now, there'll be no more fossil fuel use, what will those countries turn to? Because, of course, you got countries like and that's like UAE as well. That's United Arab Emirates, where you have all the fascinating stuff, right? The tallest buildings in the world, and some of the largest hotels in the world, two largest shopping malls in the world, and it's just a beauty to be seen when you go to Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and most of those countries in that area, Kuwait, Qatar, they have large, tall skyscrapers, and they've all used their oil money to make their countries tourism meccas. And so these countries are directly opposite Iran, very close. You can look at Iran from these countries. And Iran is being attacked, or has been attacked. And Iran is now lashing back out. And they're lashing out at whatever they could reach. So it's a total mess right now. And the Gulf states almost entirely depend on imported foodstuff and basic necessities carried by ships. So although they got plenty oil, and I learned this when I was 18-year-old cadet at Dartmouth, learning to be, I'm training to be a naval officer so that I could come back and drive some of them Defense Force ships, right? I learned that the cost of drinking water in Kuwait, in Qatar, and UAE and them is higher than the cost of fuel, gas and oil. Because they're so wealthy with those things and they got so much of it. It costs them more money to go in the shop and buy water than it is to go to the gas station and pump your gas and put gas in the car per gallon. You believe that? Well, anyway, that's the way it was back then. So I'm, I'm sure it's still like that, right? So we got these Gulf states that entirely depend on ships coming in and out of that Strait of Hormuz, which is really controlled by Iran. And Iran is still lashing out on anything that comes close enough, or who wants to use that, because you basically got to go right in their nose and come back out, right? So this is where we at, people. This is where we at. And you got the people in those other countries, like the Gulf states outside of Iran, the Qatar and the ones the UAE and even the big one that America have all that stuff in, all those bases and get so much oil from. They're all saying basically in concert almost that they don't want nothing to do with assisting in attacking Iraq, because remember, all of them are basically Muslims. They all are neighbors, and while they may have their own it's something like a family, eh? And me and my sister and my brother Rowan, leave us alone, because at the end of the day, we can always be brothers and sisters, and that goes with all family. So if you are outside of them siblings, please don't try to get between when they rowing, because they can turn on you. And we know that's how we are in the Bahamas, eh? So these countries are basically all connected by way of saying we own most of the oil in the world. We all rich. Let's take care of each other, right? Of course, that doesn't mean they gotta like each other. But after all this thing break out now, the Gulf countries are basically saying, you know what? We ain't fighting back, because all of them got good air forces and all the rest of that. We ain't fighting back right now, unless, of course, they get out of hand. Iran get out of hand and really cause us to have to come after them, because we don't have no ill will against the Iranian people. So we ain't trying to fight Iran. So they also at the same time, now listen to the difficulty in this whole crux now. I don't want to get too technical on this, right? But I know some of y'all out there want to make some calls and let me know how you all feel about this. But the crux is those same Gulf states, they are unable at this stage of the game, and probably for weeks to come, they're unable to continue flow outwards of oil and gas exports for global needs. So the whole world feeling this right now. And then we say Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, they going through it, because you know there's you basically shutting down their means of living. And it hurt them, but they have plenty of money, so they could sit this one out. But the rest of the world hurting, because now you ain't giving us, we ain't getting our oil and gas the way we would normally get. In fact, we ain't getting it at all from there, and that's 60% of the world reserve, right? So the cost is skyrocketing. Of course, and we talk about that after the break, boy, but we can talk about that, of course, skyrocketing, because we looking at some things we got to discuss. So you get massive increase in costs. Natural gas cost rose triple, 3 times the amount it was for natural gas. And we talk about it. We put in a natural gas regasification plant of Clifton Pier, and we can spend $200 million to do that. But this thing didn't happen to make us realize, boy, look here, it could be more expensive for natural gas. We talk about bringing the cost of energy down. It go on 3 times higher, particularly natural gas. So bunker C may now be even cheaper than natural gas, you know, and that's based on the projection that I saw, but I read. Anyway, talk about the Strait of Hormuz, right? And we know that's the little bottleneck. that all those ships got to go through, and it was a very busy area. This one was far more busier than what that one name in the Red Sea, leading up to Egypt, the Suez Canal. Yeah, man, this one of the most busiest areas in the world. Because like I say, you got a bunch of tankers getting in to get fuel and come back for more. You get a lot of container ships. Because why? Because those people, they import everything. Everything they import, all those countries, right? Because they don't grow nothing. They got a bunch of desert and a bunch of oil. And then you got the cruise ships would come there to visit. They can't go in no more. They can't come out. They know, but nothing could move right now the way that game, right? And that's how we dealing with the Strait of Hormuz. Tankers, the container ships, etc. They ain't enough it. And then tonight we won't mention it. We need to have time to do this now, because our times go fast. But we want to talk about the cruise ships trying to navigate the Gulf now that this happened. And you got impact not only on the Gulf, because now that an attack was made on Iran, the Houthis are now claiming that, look, you all attack our daddy. So we shutting down this Red Sea again. Boy, this thing I have it. And then the ships now got to go all the way around the Cape of Good Hope, all around Africa, and come all the way back up. 2.5 weeks way to running just to get back the way they would have gone if they was able to go through the Red Sea, the Suez Canal, and through the Mediterranean and come out the mouth. That's what this thing doing to us people. We got Carnival Cruise Lines. They operate in Australia, and they saying they got to cut that down because Australia getting on them now, but environmental and this and that. Australia even they want them, and that often as they come. So boy, we could talk about some of that if we could. And then Norwegian Cruise Line, we got a report that they ain't looking too good. They have to do some shuffling around, because I think they probably went ahead and do some things too fast, or some kind of decision. They made a misstep as far as the order is concerned, and we want to look into that a little bit. And then we got this ultra luxury yacht, and it's the first ultra luxury yacht cruise ship. Boy, we need to talk about that one. We might get to that till next week, but that is a game changer. That's a game changer. It ain't big like these fancy cruise ships, boy, but the luxury will kill you. So please, be sure to stay tuned as we delve into discussions on these maritime issues. We're talking maritime, people. You are listening to Maritime Matters. At this point, we move to our voice break. And when we return, it will be my esteemed pleasure to carry on with these interesting topics.
At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling Building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection. At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-one pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuned in to Love 97 FM. Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Our producer, a lovely producer for the night, is Mr. Craig Gibson in person. On Maritime Matters, this is the show where we talk maritime. Maritime Matters is weekly at 17:05. That's 5:05 p.m. for 1.5 hours. We go until 18:35 or 6:35 p.m. every Tuesday here on Love 97 FM. The primary purpose of our show is to sensitize Bahamians of opportunities in the maritime sector. We also cover current maritime issues from the domestic and international maritime feeds. And the maritime feeds from the international are so dominant, people, that tonight we are going to focus on what is dominating the maritime feeds internationally. The phone number to reach us, should you wish to get in on the discussion, and we do hope a couple of you all call in and give your views on what's going on in the world as far as, the impact of this war. Because this is a serious thing, and then whether you think it or not, it's going to reach us here in the Bahamas by cost. Not only cost for fuel and energy, but also costs as far as freight, supplies, and all the rest of that good stuff. And that's what we're really talking about. So please feel free to call in and let us know how you feel about this. Let us know your views. The phone number to reach us is 326-8255. That's 326-8255. To hear a replay of this show or any of our previous shows, simply hit us up on our YouTube page at any time. That's Maritime Matters Bahamas. Just like I say, I love you, we say Maritime Matters Bahamas. Just go to YouTube on your electronic device and type into your search box Maritime Matters Bahamas, and you will see a litany of all of our previous shows. And at some point tonight, this particular show will also be uploaded, should you wish to hear it in slow time. Now, back to our topics, our dangerous, serious topics we got for the night. And the primary topic, of course, war in the Persian Gulf. And as we were saying, it's a worldwide impact. Because, you see, that Gulf, that Persian Gulf, you hear the name, Persia. Persia, one time ago, Persia was, I think, if I could remember correctly, Persia was actually Iran. And they used to call that the Iran or the Persian Gulf, right? Wasn't the only country there, but they were like controllers of trade and all the rest of that. They were the big honchos, right? And they're still the big honcho, because, as far as military power is concerned, Iran was the most powerful. Now, you remember back in the day now, and this way back in the day, and I was a boy in school, we had the Gulf War. We had Iran versus Iraq. I know this fighting over. I think Iran wanted to take over Iraq, or take over Iraq oil or something. Anyway, they're fighting over something. And Iraq, of course, was much smaller than Iran. All those countries, by population and by advancement, wasn't ready for Iran. And so Iran was about to mash up Iraq. And you know what happened? The Americans got involved. And the Americans spoke with Saddam Hussein and said, look here, we here for you. Whatever you need to fight this war, we got plenty stuff we'll just lend to you, and you just fight it out. And as the Americans fed Iraq the artillery, weaponry, Iran found out year after year that they just couldn't overpower them. And they came to a stalemate after 7 long years. Now look at man. Hey, let's just forget about this war. You do you, I do me. And that was it. And then, of course, Saddam Hussein came to supreme. And he basically started ruling Iraq with an iron hand. And Iraq was in order for decades, making plenty money, living the life of O'Reilly, eh? Just like Iran was living the life of O'Reilly. And then there was a time when they had the Shah of Iran who had to flee because he was given, I think, Britain and America so much oil for cheap, and they was taking care of him, so he was filthy rich. I think he was the richest man in the world at that time, right? But the people ran him out of there. I think it's the same Ayatollah Khomeini and them ran him out of there. And he fled to America and couldn't come back no more. But anyway, all that is way down in the past, right? So fast forward a bit, we had in 1990, never forget it, 1990, bombs start dropping on Iraq. Because see, after that war, the U.S. did so much for Iraq. I figured they would have gotten cooperation as far as us having access to your oil, like how they have access to Saudi Arabia oil and Kuwait and Qatar and all that. They cool, and everybody, everything is cool. But Saddam turned against the U.S. I guess he didn't want them to have his oil at some stage, because someday, you know how these rulers go when they dictators. And as a result of all of that, George Bush, the father, authorized a strike on Iraq. And so they had plenty bombs drop on their heads, eh? And that shake them up a little bit. Tell them straighten up and fly right. And so it wasn't a all-out war per se. It was more like a wake-up call. Look, we still got all this power now. Don't think, don't get out of hand. But anyway, I think Saddam Hussein still continued as the way he was, and as far as he concerned, yeah, he get away with that. And he seriously, Saddam Hussein seriously thought that he had an army, I think, of 1 million strong, and because he was neck and neck with Iran. He wasn't letting nobody beat him in that zone no more, right? Because he had developed that artillery base, and they knew how to fight. So he figured ain't nobody in the world could touch him. But 10, 12 years later, shortly after 9/11, we all know the story, George Bush II decided he going in. He told the United Nations, get your people out, we give you 2 weeks. Because, they were in there trying to confirm or verify whether or not Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. But as far as President George Bush II was concerned, oh boy, you all got them, and we coming to find them. Since the UN and they look like they ain't know what to do, we coming. And through his word, the Americans moved in on Iraq and just annihilated the place. And of course, in the process, all the leaders, Saddam Hussein, his sons, all of them were mashed up. Saddam was eventually put to trial by his own people under the coerce of the U.S. authorities, I understand it. And he was found guilty, and he was hanged, right, in Iraq. So, since then, Iraq never caught itself. Iraq right now is still a mess. They haven't re-engaged selling oil because the place is just a wreck. Nobody leading and nobody, ships going in there because the oil rigs and all that, they were all destroyed, and what they destroyed, they just can't get it together, right? But anyway, that went on. And then, shortly thereafter, it was been told that Iran trying to enrich themselves with uranium so that they could develop nuclear weapon. And I don't know how far they got, but based on all the information we've been getting, they were pretty close. And as a result of all of that, President Trump decided we can't afford to have them get much closer, so we could take charge. And they bombed them to powder the other day. And unlike Iraq, Iran lashed back out, and they lashed out at some of their neighboring brothers and sisters. You couldn't care less, because they knew that the U.S. had Air Force bases in those areas. And then they bombed a U.S. trading ship. I think it was 10 or something, and they were trying to, anything they could reach, they was trying to deal with, eh? And that is kind of where we are now, because even today, Iran sending out drones and ballistic missiles and that type of thing at American establishments in some of those regional places. And, well, they may not be hitting them. And then you see today that they had a school, I think 100, almost 200 students they burying today because the school got hit. And, we don't know all the details on that yet, whether it was the U.S. that hit the school or they had a bomb that gone bad over there. I don't know. We don't know the details on that, and I don't like to speculate. So that's where we are. But all of that happening, it's still happening. And as a result, that whole region, that whole oil-rich region, is basically on shutdown, on lockdown, because ships, insurances are telling them, if you go in that area and your ship get blasted, don't come to us, because we ain't giving you no coverage to go in there. And they don't send a blast out to the whole shipping community, right? Your insurance is null and void if you approach that area. So ain't no ship fool enough now to go through the Strait of Hormuz. Not only that the insurance is saying to you, we're not covering you, but the Iranians, because you got to go so close to Iran in that little bottleneck, they say they could set every single ship afire to try to pass. So the area is basically locked down, eh? And as we were saying earlier, this lockdown does not only affect those countries within the Persian Gulf, like the Qatars and Kuwaits and Bahrain and Saudi Arabia and the rest of them, UAE, Oman. No, they don't only affect them. It affects them in that they can't get no supplies for their day-to-day operations as far as food and building supplies and whatever they, because them places building all the time, eh? And not only were ships not able to come in, airports in those countries have closed down. And you got a lot of people, because those people get thousands of visitors on an ongoing basis. So you get thousands of people in Dubai, can't get out. Thousands of people in Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. Well, Saudi Arabia airport may be a little ways away, so they may be able to get in and out of there. But with all these bombs thrown about the place right now, airplanes are not going into those airports. They've all been told That's a no-fly zone. Because it's an area of war. And this ain't no war between no small fries. This ain't a Russia-Ukraine war where ain't no countries caught up in it. Only them two. You notice, you ain't hear no other country name called. Except I think at one point, Russia went through, is it Belarus? From the north so that they could come and try and get, not Kiev for the next one. Yeah, maybe Kiev. But then when they tried that didn't work. Because they had them roads all mined up and all the rest of that. And another thing, they don't know if Iran have mines planted under the sea in the Strait of Hormuz. And that they can activate whenever they want to. So it's a lot of reasons why ships gotta shy away from entering the Persian Gulf at this time. And the sad thing about it, well, not the sad thing, but the interesting thing, I guess, well, sad too, is that we don't know when this thing is going to subside enough for normal shipping to continue. Because the IMO is now saying, look, yeah, we know you got war going on, but look, you shouldn't be making a tax on innocent ships. Warships we can understand. And remember now, the US went and they destroyed and they sink and they put to the bottom of the sea all Iranian military naval ships. And that was a good bunch of ships. But you know how they track these things on an ongoing basis, so they know where they are. And ain't nobody got no better Air Force than the US. Ain't nobody got no better Navy than the US. Ain't nobody got more aircraft carriers than the US. So they were able to track them down and just sink them. I assume that all the people on them died, right? Because if a ship is sank by bombing and they're in the ocean, chances are they ain't gonna live, right? But anyway, that's a little sidetrack thing. But that happened, and that's part of this war. And we right now faced with cease and seconds, stand still in the Gulf. The countries in the Gulf can't get no supplies. They can't send out no oil to keep making money. Mind you, they got money piled up like dirt. They got money in the bank that could hold them for another 20, 30 years. Easy. But they still got to be able to use the money to buy stuff that ships could bring to them, as they continue to develop. Because what I can see, what I can decipher from what's going on with them in this time before this war started, I think most of them, knowing that the world is weaning itself off of fossil fuel and it's doing it pretty fast, and they no longer going to be making money from fossil fuel, which that's all what they sell. That's how they get rich, and that's how they keep it rich, right? But they can't. Ain't nobody can want that no more, because when we done get all the vehicles electrical and all the utilities, energy utility corporations and stuff around the world using either windmill for energy or solar, and they ain't gonna need no more oil from these places, and they could just shut everything down. But what they have been doing in the interim, and most of us would know who travels, right? They have been building beautiful buildings, and they've been turned into tourism, and tourists starting to flock those places like mad. Well, not right now, but I'm sure when this war subsides, like it will, like it always do, like all of them do, right? It could be months, it could be years, but whenever it subsides, the world would still be on a trajectory, because China still spitting out a lot of windmills and solars to the rest of the world, and people buying them up like mad and using them. They spurn out a lot of electric vehicles, and so that's not going to stop. Well, unless there's a war over there somewhere, which we can't foresee and we wouldn't expect, right? So that will be this stop in the Gulf will be a hindrance to fossil fuel, because fossil fuel costs is now already skyrocketing. Skyrocketing to the extent where I've heard a report this morning on BBC that the costs for natural gas have tripled. So when our Minister of Transport and Energy was so optimistically informing us that we will see a big reduction in our energy costs, our light bill, once this plan is installed at Clifton Pier, there's a total of $200 million, and we are now fully on natural gas. But see, when she said that natural gas was far cheaper than fossil fuel, well, natural gas is fossil fuel, but it's like 50% less fossil fuel or less carbon released than the others. And it was much cheaper. But because of disclosure in the Persian Gulf, we have a situation now where disclosure has created a dent into the supply of natural gas. Excuse me, because Qatar, Kuwait, and Bahrain, I think they're the three big natural gas fellas, right? They was just sending them out to the world. But now that ain't coming out. So because it's scarce, the price skyrocketed. So I don't know, we don't know how long this war will last. How long those supplies will be impacted. But what we do know is that we say we go in to natural gas. And my argument 3 years ago, 2 years ago, last year, and last week, before this war erupted, was why will the Bahamas be shifting from fossil fuel, from bunker C, fuel oil, to natural gas, instead of switching over from fuel oil to solar? Because we are deep in the solar belt. Solar is what we want. And I heard some people on some shows today questioning as to why the government don't incentivize. Well, they even use that big term, incentivize. Why the government don't use some of the roof in some of our communities to put those solar panels, so they wouldn't have to have solar farms, actually put them on people's roof, feed to the grid. And then somebody even said, what about the government buildings? Some of them are huge, I'm a solar. And I saw some of them with plenty solar on it, Because if you feeding the grid with solar from all government establishments, and people who got plenty money to buy solar and they feed into the grid, that will cut the cost of electricity for the entire country. And if government was to create and incentivize on top of that the people who can't afford it up front, because now you got to remember, although you may not be able to afford it up front, if you could have it, instead of paying your light bill, you paying the government back less, because now you using solar. It costs less. That's a win-win for the whole country. Does the government want the whole country to be on a win-win trajectory when it comes to energy? That's a big question. And everything ain't as straightforward and simple as we think it's supposed to be. And some of us know the answers as to why the government ain't moving along that pathway. But most of us want the win-win. So we need to start looking at that a little harder. in nudging our government a little stronger to see if we could just get on the right track with solar. So back to the Persian Gulf. The IMO is saying that we need to make sure ships can continue to safely navigate in that very precious and important area of the world. And the IMO know better. The UN know better. They know that those bodies ain't got no say when it comes to war. Those bodies couldn't stop the Ukraine war. Those bodies couldn't stop when Iraq was taken advantage of. Those bodies couldn't stop when Libya when Gaddafi's being overthrown. Where were they? I mean, yes, they talk, but they ain't got no punch. So we all know that, yes, while that would be the ideal thing, it ain't happening just like that. Some more people gotta die, plenty more people gotta die before the sense. This done start, and while we don't know how it can finish, what we could put in our pipe and smoke right now is that it ain't gonna be pretty. Ladies and gentlemen, listening to Maritime Matters. On the show, we talk maritime. And right now, we're talking about the war in the Persian Gulf, the impact that is having on maritime, the impact that is having generally. And we're wrangling on. And the number to call is 326-8255. And if you all just want me wrangle on, I'll wrangle on. But I would hope that somebody would call in who have a view on this thing and who is aware of what's going on, or even have questions about it, so that we could just continue this discussion. So Qatar, Kuwait, and Bahrain, they have well-equipped air forces, eh? Their air forces, they can match any small country air force and probably do even better because they got plenty of money, eh? But they into trying to, they ain't got nobody to go against. They ain't got against Iran and they ain't got against the US. Well, you know, some of them don't like Israel that much, but Israel and the US is a package, eh? That's a package. Can't get around that. And then the Emirates and the Saudis, they got air bases that the US would normally have access to. But they ain't playing that right now. Because their bases, they have significantly increased the Israeli and US Saudi rates, right? They wouldn't have to fly all the way from Israel to get there. They could start putting planes down on the ground in Saudi Arabia. It's right across the road from Iran. I mean, right across, totally opposite Iran and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is America's friends, but they ain't really into this. If they had a part to play, like the Israelis did, in coming to conclusion that yes, we need to attack Iraq, then they would open their bases and say, yeah man, Iraq need to get attacked. They doing too much foolishness in this area. But that ain't the case. They didn't even know when that attack was going to be made. All they know is the attack was done. And of course, they got to sit, because now they ain't moving. Your country can't move it. So whether Iran come out of this like Iraq did, or Iran come out of this and could still rebuild, that's still their neighbors. That's their neighbors for life. So they got to be like between a rock and a hard place. They want to work with the U.S. because that's their source of revenue. But they also don't want to be in a position where, because the U.S. are the next side of the world, the U.S. ain't gonna be nowhere around when all this done settled 20 years down the road. The U.S. ain't gonna be nowhere around. So they gotta bear that in mind, like anybody else. And then we in the Caribbean, although they are business, some of us like to, we like to shoot our mouth off. But we got to be very careful. What the saying goes these days: stay in your lane. If you come out your lane, you could get trampled, eh? So we'll stay in our lane. So Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Emirates, Saudi, all of them have sorted their basis, but it would need to be clear that any Emirati and Saudi intervention is based on protecting their own interests, and they will refrain from an attack on Iraq unless their own personal interest in their country is targeted by Iraq. And Iraq ain't really into targeting them right now, right? Again, 326-8255. It's the number to call if you want to on this discussion. You're listening to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. And boy, I guess the subject boring, or you all less want to listen to me talk all night. There's a massive increase in the cost of oil and gas globally already. Because all of us know, well, if you've been on this a little while, you should know, that more than half of the oil and gas supplies worldwide comes out of the Persian Gulf. And then we also know that Russia spews out a lot of natural gas. Not really too much oil, but natural gas for sure. China spits out a lot of oil. So we are now dealing with this big area of over half the supply no longer going to the world. And we have a situation too where most of the countries have sanctioned against Russian oil and gas because they were saying Russia mashing up Ukraine for nothing. They shouldn't be doing what they're doing, taking advantage of Ukraine. So they sanctioned oil and so hope Russia would run out of money because mind you, they still getting oil sold now because China and India and other countries they getting oil from Russia. And then they found out too that some of those European countries sneaking in oil from Russia because it was so cheap. But now they might have a choice, because if you got a plant that needs natural gas and you were getting your supply out of the Persian Gulf, your country needs power. How is your country going to get this power if it don't have the supply of natural gas that it needs? And Russia is your biggest option in getting outside of where you was getting it from, or the Persian Gulf. Because I think they had some of that going on in Venezuela area and Trinidad and Tobago for sure. But you can't just replace over 50% of your world output. Russia could help. And Russia would be, I think, the go-to after this as far as being ready to spew out and send out. So how is the world going to react now that they can't get what they need for energy when it comes to Russia? And how does the world see what the US is doing with Iran when juxtaposed to what Russia is doing to Ukraine? Is that the same thing? The big boy taking advantage of the smaller fella? Well, all that is yet to be unfolded and seen by us all, eh? What the world could do. We got a rising price in the cost of energy. I mean, we was already on the brink of things being too expensive because everything rose and rose and rose, and we were looking for things to go subside now because we now move into natural gas, solar, and windmill or wind farms to provide the world with energy, which will be far more cheaper than it used to be. So the whole world was looking for things to get cheaper again. Now this war broke out right in the midst, before things could really galvanize itself. We got this big war going on. We don't know how long it will last. We don't know what impact from that Persian Gulf area it's going to have. But what we do know is we ain't really ready to come off fossil fuel right now, but that's more than half of the world's supply. That's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. So how does that now impact us here in the Bahamas? As indicated earlier, we have plans to change our energy system from fuel oil, bunker C sort of thing, to natural gas, which should cut the cost almost in half. Provided this war didn't happen and natural gas didn't go up to 3 times more expensive. Now, of course, when this war doesn't subside, the gas will come out again and we'll be able to get it, I'm sure. Right? But who knows? There's a war. You ain't know where this can end up. But what we do know is that if we go to solar, you see, we ain't put that regasification plan in there yet. We ain't spend that $200 million yet. We ain't need to spend that, you know. Let's just go to solar one time. And this would have no impact on our energy costs. We wouldn't even have to worry about ships coming in here no more to bring any kind of gas, any kind of oil, because we wouldn't need it. But of course, a couple cars that are left, and you know, in 2035 they can stop making internal combustible engine cars. So everything is going to be, in a couple good years from here, just electric vehicles. So again, if we get our source of energy from solar, and I found it so impacting that if you have an electric vehicle and you put solar on your roof, and in the middle of the day you charging your electric vehicle from your house, you know you ain't paying a dime, because the amount of solar that's making is enough for your car to charge for free, because that's from the sun. And you know, you'll ask, why aren't we doing that? Why are we in the Bahamas not using electric vehicles? So we ain't got, well, first of all, you ain't got to go to no gas station. But it wouldn't cost us nothing if we have solar panels on our roof, enough to give us that energy. You ain't think that's a big win? Well, that's why I'm headed there. I mean, you say, well, oh boy, you get it, you on your own. Yes, that's where I'm headed. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's where we are now in our country. That's where we are now in the world with this war in the Persian Gulf. And we can talk a little bit about the Strait of Hormuz when we return, the impact of tankers, and then we want to go to our cruise ship session. So with that, we'll move to our second break on Maritime Matters.
At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling Building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection.
Make the most of your holiday celebrations with one of the new Junkanoo Mega Packs at KFC. Choose between 4 saucy wings or a delicious Kentucky Deluxe sandwich, each served with a piece of handmade tasty KFC chicken and a variety of tasty KFC sides. A new guava dessert biscuit and a Mega Pepsi for only $15 including VAT. Get your KFC Junkanoo Mega Packs and celebrate Junkanoo freedom today. KFC and Junkanoo, handmade with pride, only at KFC Nassau.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting
In the evening comes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Payne, and you're all into me tonight. But guess what? You can hear what's going on in this world anyhow. That's what the man told me to tell you all. Let them hear what's going on in this world anyhow. This is educational. That's what I'm talking about. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain, our producer for tonight, Mr. Craig Gibson, and we are talking primarily war in the Persian Gulf. The aftermath, it ain't no aftermath because it ain't over yet. But what we are currently experiencing as a result, what the projection look like as a result of this war, and I don't know who right and who wrong and who left and who right and who I don't know, and I try to find out. You know what? Because I just stay in my own lane, and I suggest you do the same. Our country need to worry about our country right now, and who are we to have any say? So we talk about the Strait of Hormuz. Again, the number to call 326-8255. If you want in on this discussion, feel free to hit us up at 326-8255. And I'm wondering, because I watch a lot of BBC. I just watch CNN too, but mainly BBC and Al Jazeera, right? Because I'm so interested in world affairs. I could go back from day one on that war in Iraq and the things that happened as a result. And as things developed, they talk a lot about those boats that are getting blasted in the South American seas, east and west side. Talk a lot about the blockade from fuel going to Cuba and how the Cubans are now suffering. So, and we gotta thank heavens that Cuba is a country that is not in cold climate like Ukraine and them, because they may be able to light a lamp like we do on our family islands when we were small growing up, right? We had lamp and lanterns and torch when you go and grab it, right? So we used to make light. But what Cuba don't need and what we didn't need that Ukraine would need is space heaters. They need something to cut that cold, because boy, this gets so cold up in those countries. If Cuba was like that right now, they would have people dying from just being too excuse me, being too cold. You know, because a lot of people live, and I can tell you, I've been to Cuba. A lot of people live in houses in Cuba where they ain't no windows and no doors. And I can tell you this. No windows, no doors, no partition. And they got climb steps, and they got floors and floors of that. We got a call on the line. Caller, you on Maritime Matters. Thank you very much for calling. Hello.
Good evening, Captain Ben.
Good evening to you, ma'am.
I'm calling because you mentioned Cuba, and the government is proposing to send aid to Cuba.
Really?
What have you in the newspaper today?
I saw something in the newspaper. I didn't see any details. I think they were talking about doing it along with CARICOM, eh?
Okay, so
isn't that the case?
I don't know.
Well, you call and say they sending aids, but you don't know the details.
No, I'm saying that I'm asking you, what do you think about the Bahamas sending aid?
I don't think, because I couldn't see what they sending. I only know they say they can go together with CARICOM, and they didn't say how they can get it there. I know. I also read in that section where they're saying that the Prime Minister of Jamaica have to be careful, because he may lose his visa. That's what one of the U.S. officials indicated, that he better be quiet. Now, I don't know if that's going to cause everything to change. You read that part?
Well, no. I'm talking about if the Bahamas is to provide aid, they don't want. We're not providing fuel, right? We just. No,
we may be just be doing food. Well, look, my thing is, if we're going to provide aid, tell me how we can do it.
But he hasn't.
Don't indicate. Yeah, no, they did say that it's a CARICOM effort, right?
Right.
But I don't know if CARICOM are going to press forward after the Prime Minister of Jamaica got his little spanking very recently. I'm not sure they want to. See, you got to be very careful how you flare up in the face of America. So we have to be very. While we want to do a lot of things, that don't mean we have freedom to do it and still be in good graces of the U.S. And I'm not saying we have to be in good graces with the U.S., but it'll help us, because if they tell us if we stop our visa, better leave us. We gotta be very careful how we approach these things. Now it's good to say, but I don't see the details. Show me some details, and then we can talk about that some more.
Well, they say they haven't worked out the details as yet. Right?
But then if they haven't worked out the details, you're impressing me. I don't want to know you say you could try to get it. I want to know you're gonna get AIDS there. Let me see the pathway of you getting AIDS there without offending the U.S.
Wow.
That's what I want to see.
I don't see anything wrong with food stuff and water.
I see nothing wrong with fuel either, but the thing is, are you going to offend the U.S. in doing what you're doing?
I don't think the U.S. intention is to kill the people, eh? I think they just don't want the fuel to go there.
That's your view?
Huh?
Is that your view?
Well, that's what I think.
That's what you think?
I don't think they want to kill them.
I'm not saying they want to kill them, but do they want them to suffer? That's another thing.
But making them suffer is
no. But do you think the U.S. wants the Cubans to suffer?
No.
You don't think so?
No, I think they just want to overthrow the government. So
yeah, but you don't think if they don't want them to suffer, then why would they put a blockade from them being able to get fuel to keep the lights and thing on? That causes suffering.
No, I'm saying that if the present government would have just yielded, he said that it should be an easy type of takeover, right?
No.
Well,
I didn't see that. Anyway, you called it to talk about Cuba. Cuba is doing really bad right now. I mean, I have close ties to Cuba right now. You know, I have my family is in Cuba, and plus I have Cuban friends, right? And my information is that Cuba is in a horrible state. They were turning on the lights for 2 hours a day. Now they ain't turning them on at all, right? They could hardly get food. You know, they always had the embargo on them. And because the U.S. had actually put a blockade of ships to stop other ships from coming into Cuba, you know, I don't know if it's still there, but that's what they had done initially. So even if a ship wanted to go in there, they were scared. And then countries gotta also be careful that you got to get the U.S. blessings if you want to go do anything with Cuba right now, because if they feel offended, and they may target you.
Well, David, they put a tax on us, a tariff on us.
They put a tariff on the whole world, 15%.
Right. So
who's we?
right. So I mean,
I'm just saying you got to be careful.
The way it seems is that America is proposing to control every government and every nation in the Western Hemisphere.
Well, that's what countries with power do, eh?
Right. So
that's what countries with power do. Mind you, this could have happened a long time ago, but they just happen now to have a president like President Trump, who decided to stretch his power out and use them and ways to make America great again. He say and put them. See, right now there's a push where China is surging, and China is projected to equal and surpass the U.S. when it comes to annual revenue. You know, China now, their annual revenue is like around $22 trillion a year. The U.S. is 32 trillion a year. But 10 years ago, China was less than 5 trillion a year. So you see what's going on?
Right.
And all of this is causing.
So every war that they're initiating is just to push China back, right?
Ma'am, I'm not saying that's what it's just for, but I know that's part of it.
Right, because I was listening to these commentators, and they're saying that without the oil from Iraq and Iran, or at least at those low prices that they were getting, it's going to put some pressure on China to find an alternate.
Yeah, and then you know Russia's right next door, so Russia can supply them. But China was also getting oil from Venezuela, remember?
Yeah.
So it's a lot going on. What we see is what we see, but as a country in this hemisphere, we have to, not only in there, I mean, wherever these countries are, you got to be very close or very careful how you approach things when it comes to the U.S. See, we have always been partners with the U.S., and I don't think we ever want to be in a position where we're doing things that the U.S. is not quite happy about. I don't think we could afford to be in that position.
Right.
You know.
So you think that sending a little bit of food and some water?
No, I think that's fine so long as we get the blessings of the U.S.
in the face of America.
I think if we ask the U.S. if it's okay for us to do that, and they say it's okay,
and
then we should do it in grand style. But what I don't think is that we should just go ahead and do that.
But if they doing it as a CARICOM nation, right? They doing it.
CARICOM is doing plenty of things that we don't be a part of. Because we got to look out for us. You think CARICOM? You don't know Caribbean countries look out for us, eh? you seriously think they're looking for us? No, they're looking for themselves, and I can guarantee you, if there's an opposition, they do more than what we do, as far as trying to align themselves with the U.S. We fully dependent on the U.S. You know. Excuse me. How we expect to flare up in the face of what they say, don't bite the hands that feed you or something like that. Mm-hmm. We gotta be very careful, and we could dialogue with them and find out if it's okay. That's all I'm saying. I don't think we should be waking. Yes, we're a sovereign country, but we also gotta understand we want to remain in the good graces so that you can imagine if they say our students ain't get no more student visa. Hard as they're working trying to get a college degree. You know the kind of impact that'll have on our country. We just need to look at things logically, and like everybody else, like every family, we take care of home first, eh?
Yeah.
I have no problems giving Cuba as much as we could and even more, because I love Cuba. But under the circumstances, I just think we should run it by our big brothers before we do it. That's all I say, and get the blessing. Because if they say no, we ain't for that, then we got to be very, very careful. Because now
they wouldn't if their aim is to crush the government. They're not going to give they're not going to give approval for.
Well, if they're not going to give approval, then why would we want to go ahead and do it? Why would we want to create
food
tension
stuff,
between
not
us?
school.
Well, that's what I told. Whatever we want to do, we need to get their blessing. That's all I said.
So,
That's all I said. I'm just saying we shouldn't just go out there and do what we want to do because we feel like it's the thing to do without getting their blessings. Because they may bless us with that. They may say, yeah, man, they want to get them some food. That's cool. Ain't interested in them not eating, you know. But let's hear what they say and first. That's all I said.
mm.
We could want to be as sovereign as we want, but we also got to be sensible. That's my views.
So, as for the job that I was looking for, to mention these Cocoa Key and these private islands are advertising a lot of jobs, right, for the Bahamian people.
I've seen that, especially Cocoa Key. They have been putting out a mass employment, and
At least
this should have been done 20 years ago.
Right. Right, but what I'm saying is that the Bahamian people have not been trained or don't have the credentials, some of them, to even take these jobs.
Well, maybe we didn't know those jobs would have existed. Otherwise, we may have been trained for them. The thing is, once we know now, even if we can't get them right now, we can start working toward getting them. And the thing is, once immigration give out a permit for job, but there's no qualified Bahamian, they're supposed to have understudy. Make them bring a Bahamian understudy.
Who's looking into that? Nobody is in
Department of Immigration, Department of Labor. They're the ones who that come under.
No, but I'm saying that's the reason why you have now, like even with the shipyard, at one point in your show you mentioned that, there should be some type of special training or specialized training to take these jobs. Remember, they had a whole full page of jobs for the shipyard. And if they don't get any response, if they don't get any application, and then that justifies bringing in a foreigner.
I agree, but I blame our government. Our government know from 20 years ago when the shipyard came in that they was here to stay, right? Our government had they ever lifted a finger to even say let's form a training schedule where we could send people off to India schools. They have that because they feed the whole fleet.
And there's opportunities in that for free because of the international community giving away these free opportunities.
Yeah, but most of that comes through the government service, the government department, government agencies as well. All I'm saying is there's a lot of room for the government to do things for our citizens in those areas. And I don't know of anything that the government. I know Grand Bahamas Shipyard had a program where they bringing in apprentices and having them in training for 2 years and sending them off. But the government had no part to play in none of this. In 20 years, I don't think the government lifted a finger. The Ministry of Transport lifted a finger to try and make even with the Freeport Container Port. They send their own people off to learn to be gantry crane operators, right? The government ain't interested in none of that. And we are lousy when it comes to getting on board with those type of things. Even LJM, the government give them a couple dollars and say, well, we can assist you with funding. But are they really checking on LJM to see if their programs are streamlined the way it should be? Is the BMA doing those quarterly audits and annual audits?
Well, I noticed that they're
not doing it because they slack. They don't want nothing to do with it.
No, but they've lost. It doesn't seem to be. They're calling themselves Academy.
It doesn't matter what they call themselves. They're for the Bahamian people, and the BMA should be more involved in the day-to-day operation in our place. And we got what over 1,500 ships carrying our flag who are saying that they're prepared to take our students. When last, because we got a.
So I wanted to talk about these jobs that they're offering at Cocoa Key.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, because so the security, and which is up your alley, because even you could provide this training to some persons who may not have the certification as yet, right?
What security they asking for? What kind of security they asking for?
Let me tell you what security is, because I'm reading it.
Okay, I want to hear it.
Port Facility Security Officer, deputy port facility security officer, assistant port facility security officer, port facility security guard, right? Which is a whole list of items, and I'm sure that's just not one person that they need for these particular jobs. But they also have to have the certification, which is what you provide, right?
But they have to. So, we have a lot of as a matter of fact, just last week.
So let me finish my thought.
Oh my
right?
goodness!
So
Yes,
these facilities is something that you would provide, and you and others. You have different people offering these certifications.
Yeah,
right?
we have provided. The people are available for those jobs. Those jobs can be taken. They ain't got luck for no foreigner for them.
It seems that they don't have them available.
No, that's not true.
It.
No, they just making the officer and these the people we need. Now, when the people go there with their qualification, they could fill those roles. They don't. That ain't necessarily say they have foreigners as security personnel, because I could guarantee you, if you have 27 facilities in the Bahamas that need those same roles, and every single one of them except probably those private islands have fully Bahamian qualified in those areas, private islands can't say we ain't got the people for those areas. It's just that they wanted their people and they wanted to pay their people less. So now that they're advertising them, I would think that the Labor Department, because now you got to remember, Coco Key in particular, the Department of Labor visited that key couple months back when the staff was saying that they were not getting overtime, and they had like 80% foreigners. And I think as a result of that visit, we are now seeing these publishing where instead of 80% foreigners, we probably will end up with 80% Bahamians. And this is where we need to go.
That live in the country, right? So
no, these ain't foreigners that live in the country. They live.
They live on those. That are coming on, because what the government did was the people that are coming off of the cruise ship to serve the island, right? They have to pay for a work permit and national insurance for the daily. Yeah,
that's because they were not hiring Bahamians to do those roles. But now, if they can hire Bahamians, they don't need to even come off them ships to do that no more. Those are simple things that Bahamians can do.
So back to my thought, right? Was okay. If I'm looking at all the jobs in the various areas that they're advertising for, which is for the perfect day at Coco Key. Now, this is just one out of 7 or 9. How many they have?
Well, this is the only one where I know the director of labor went to. So far.
Yeah, but they have others that are also advertising from last week and the week before. They have jobs that they are advertising for persons to apply for, and it seems as if they're using a PD recruitment at rccl.com.
Yeah, but
so that's
I know
not the government.
I know.
What I'm saying is, all of these jobs, if you need these persons, it's a specialized job. You have to work on a key, right? There should be some type of incubation or some type of specific school or training opportunity.
They're not specialized jobs, I don't know why you referring to them as specialized jobs.
Well, it's special in that you have to leave your home. You're not going to be at home, right? So you're going to be either...
The person who join a ship to go to sea, they don't be at home. But what's so special about that?
No, I'm talking about the unique situations with these private islands, Glenn. You're not going to get Bahamians, especially women, who have kids, right? They may need these jobs, and they're not going to just leave their home with their children and husbands and stuff and go and work on a key.
No, then you get the ones that don't have husband and children. That them apply, because we got plenty of them we can do.
Man,
all I'm saying is we can fulfill those roles with Bahamians. And some of these mothers with husband and children, they'd be glad to get away for a little while to catch their sanity.
I'm talking about building a foundation.
Yeah, but
right?
you have some of these keys.
We don't have to wait until the silly seasons for these jobs to become available. These jobs were not advertised that I know of prior to these last 2 weeks where they're advertising, right?
Well, I'm not sure this timing. I can't agree with you based on what I know and what I was recording, what I was reading in the press about Coco Key. I'm not sure. See, this was transitional. You got to remember, there were times when the Minister of Labor went over there, and they went over there on a few occasions to address some of these problems. So as a result of that, now if this is happening on a different key.
So when you say the problems, okay, let's go back again, right? You say 80% of the people that were working there. Now you know that they just upgraded or they invested additional monies, right? Now according to the news, that improvement gave RCCL a 60% increase in revenue. 60% of the monies that they make is coming from their private islands, and so they hail in that this improvement is going to increase their revenue intake by even more. So what I'm saying, right, based on just these jobs that are being advertised now, when you look at it, you have technical, you have food and beverage, you have the executives, you have human resources, you have the lifeguards, you have the attractions, right? This is a whole gangbusters of jobs that are available. Difficulty that I'm having, or what I'm proposing, is that the cruise line, each one that have a private island, when they come in, that they create the same apprenticeship, go into the schools or wherever it is that they need to do to attract persons to come and take these jobs, especially if they're young people who don't have any responsibilities like children or husbands. So I'm saying, nurse. They need nurses. It touches almost every aspect of our society, and this is an island unto itself. So you have to travel there. You have to either go there and stay. I don't know if they have the bungalows or how they're going to do it, but they have.
They got accommodations. They got accommodation for the staff that they, because the staff usually stay there for like 3-4 months at a time. Come home for a couple 2-3 weeks and go right back for it. And the staff is basically base stationed on those keys. And this has been happening from you got Castaway Key, we had Half Moon Key, and I remember I used to go to those keys and see the staff who used to live on those keys, and most of them were Bahamians. But now, for some reason, that was not the case with Coco Key. They had more foreigners than Bahamians.
Yes, but
most of those other keys have more Bahamians than foreigners.
The concentration of opportunities for jobs needs to be in some type of, even though, let's say if it was the Labor Department that takes the lead in it, right? These persons need specialized training. They need to be trained specifically to endure the work life of living on a key.
No, that's not true. That's not true. Don't fool yourself. Don't fool yourself. Those people, they have air conditioned rooms where they sleep in. These people, the food is be good compared to what most of them will have in their house. I be on these keys.
You ain't getting what I'm saying.
No, you get me lost.
It's a knee-jerk reaction to a problem. This ad.
That particular key, but you can't use one paintbrush to paint all the keys with that same brush.
No, because I'm trying to tell you that now that Disney was advertising the one in Eleuthera, they the one in Grand Bahama. If you go to their website, they're advertising for the jobs, right? They're advertising.
They don't advertise like that one come out for Coco Key.
No, exactly. But then what I'm saying is, this what they're asking and what they're advertising is complete. It's from one aspect of job opportunities, beach-wise, human resources, executive managers. They advertising for every aspect in this one ad. That's right. And I'm saying that this is an opportunity, as you mentioned, the school, change, pivot. If you're not getting people to go out to sea, then we need to concentrate on providing employment for these islands so that when they bring in a foreigner, it wouldn't be as easy, or no one could say, well, hey, you bringing in foreigners and it's slacking. If the people are there, ready, trained, and we have all kind of training agencies that address this on the land. We have the National Training Agency that helps the kids when they get out of high school to get the training that they need. So it's the same incubation type thing needs to exist for all of these private islands, and not just individually Coco Key, but all of them.
But all of them is be doing it. Do you know that Linda Davis and BTVI went and set up shop in Saudi Eleuthera so that they could have prepared the workforce for Disney Lighthouse Point? Do you know that?
Yeah,
these things can happen.
That was still a reaction to.
That was no reaction because this is a brand new thing coming on stream.
Where's the establishment now? Where it is now?
Where was this?
The Linda Davis people and what they did.
And the people who they train on now, all at Lighthouse. I went there. They a whole heap of Bahamians here, you know, foreigners there.
Yeah, but that effort that she did was a reaction to.
That was not a reaction. That was an idea Disney wanted because Disney wanted the people. That was not a reaction to nothing because the place didn't open yet. This I talking about Lighthouse Point. This is a brand new facility. There was never no facility there. All I'm saying is we have the capacity to do it.
What I'm saying. So.
But we have the capacity to do it is what I'm trying to show you. It only a matter whether those islands want it done and the government can make them do it. If they know the government can make them do it, they'll do what Disney did at Lighthouse Point. That's all I am saying.
Right.
Anyway, we fresh all the time. Thank you so much for your contribution. We'll finish this up next week. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. My producer for tonight, the great Mr. Craig Gibson. I want to say good night to Annie Mae. I want to say thank you to my sponsors, Bahamas Maritime Connection, and of course, what it is, it's three of them. Well, it's two of them. It's my little cousin Shantia Hill McBride and a one-on-one pharmacy, and in Freeport a big sister Steph. That's my big sister. No, that's a mommy here, Steph, and Island Care Pharmacy. I say thank you for keeping Maritime Matters going. And ladies and gentlemen, I had that one call. I thank that caller so much. I know her well and she means well, and I just want to say to you, our dear listener, continue to listen. I know you ain't called tonight, but I hope you're getting something out of it, and we appreciate you. With that, I say, Maritime Matters, tick, 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 out.
Sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide.